I was 16 during my junior year of high school, which had a 9-period schedule. Fifth period was lunch, followed by my astronomy class, held in one of the school's 2 basement classrooms. My high school was large with 3 floors, but even that wasn't enough to accommodate all the classes offered. So they built 2 additional classrooms in the basement. It was a bit creepy down there when no one else was around. The area had previously been a janitorial space, but had been remodeled to resemble a typical hallway. However, there were no intercoms or loudspeakers, which meant that no classes were held there during the morning announcements. Everyone referred to the basement section as the chamber, and students often hoped to have classes there because it was air-conditioned and typically easier. Plus, it had its own bathroom. On that day, we had a quiz in astronomy. I usually finished quickly because I found the class easy. After completing my quiz, I texted my friend who was in the other basement classroom, asking him to meet me in the bathroom because I was bored. He agreed. I walked out of the classroom and down the small hallway to the bathroom. A few seconds later, JJ entered. We joked around for a while until he checked his phone and said someone had texted him that the school was going on lockdown. We exchanged grins. Neither of our teachers had noticed us leave the classrooms, which meant we had free rein while the school was in lockdown. We decided to sneak upstairs and explore the hallways for fun. The worst that could happen was we'd explain that we couldn't hear the announcements in the basement. Upon opening the basement door to the main floor, we were surprised to find all the lights turned off, leaving the hallways nearly pitch black except for the light streaming in from the lobby doors. This was unusual. Typically, the lights remained on during lockdowns. Something felt off, and we hesitated to walk around. JJ stepped further into the hallway, and I followed. He then looked down the hall and said, "Who's that?" Emerging from the darkness was a man. At first, we couldn't tell if he was a teacher, but as he got closer, it became clear he wasn't dressed like any staff member. He looked like a bum. "All right, let's go," I told JJ as we hurried back to the basement. He had definitely seen us. Both classrooms had their doors shut and lights off, so to avoid making a scene, we decided to hide in the bathroom. I turned off the light immediately, and we both squeezed into the corner stall. The room was completely silent, no ventilation, no heaters. Just the sound of our breathing and the occasional drip from the sink. Suddenly, the bathroom door opened and light flooded in for a brief moment before it closed again, plunging us back into darkness. We tried to control our breathing, but it was so silent that we could hear someone walking toward our side of the bathroom. The person stopped and began breathing heavily as if out of breath. We were both terrified. JJ made a foolish decision and whispered in my ear that we needed to crawl out through the other stalls. The room was so quiet that even his whisper carried. The heavy breathing outside the stall stopped, and the person pressed against the stall door. I whispered, "Go, go," to JJ. We crawled under the side wall to the next stall, then to the next, and finally out to the other side of the bathroom. The person was now banging on the stall door. We jumped up, opened the door, and as the light filled the room again, we saw the man from upstairs in the corner. We pounded on the door to JJ's classroom, and the teacher let us in within seconds. JJ quickly explained everything as the teacher locked the door, mentioning a gun sticking out of the man's pocket. I was shocked to hear this as I hadn't seen a gun, but I went along with it. Normally, high school students would laugh at such a scene, but the kids in the corner looked concerned. A sudden bang at the door made everyone jump, and a couple of girls squealed in fear. JJ, the teacher, and I could see the man standing at the door, looking through the window while trying the doorknob. After a few angry bangs on the door, he turned and walked down the hall toward the stairs. We weren't sure how long the lockdown lasted, but we sat in silence for over an hour, with the teacher occasionally asking JJ and me questions, shaking his head at our responses. Eventually, someone from upstairs called the teacher, instructing us to line up and walk up the stairs to exit the building, where we would be greeted by police. JJ and I did our best to describe the man to the officers and the dean. One of the cops patted me on the back, and we were sent home. After this incident, the school installed cameras everywhere and increased the security budget. The event never made the news, so we never found out if the police caught the man. I'm convinced he intended to harm us in that bathroom stall. As a retired police officer from New Jersey, I can say that the most disturbing call I ever received was for a lockdown at a nearby middle school, which I will not name for legal reasons. It happened on a stormy, dark day. My car number was called to respond to a lockdown after a suspicious-looking man was seen leaving a white van parked behind a school and entering through the back door by the boys' locker room. I pulled into the back parking lot next to the white van, which was empty, with all doors and the trunk locked. I opened the red back door leading into the gym hallway, close to the locker rooms. The main lights were off, leaving the inside of the school dark. I unholstered my flashlight and used it to navigate the halls. In the lobby, a woman emerged from the front office and quietly instructed me to check the boys' locker room, warning that the suspect might be armed. I called for backup and was assured help was on the way. I returned to the hallway where I found the boys' locker room next to the exit. I pushed the door open quietly. There were no windows, so the locker room was pitch black, illuminated only by my flashlight. I could hear a faint scratching sound, as if something was tapping on the locker doors from the other side. I knew I should announce my presence as a police officer, but I was too scared. The tension in the room was palpable. I held my flashlight in one hand and my gun in the other as I crept to the other side of the locker room. As I moved, the scratching sounds seemed to come from different directions. I was standing in the corner near the bathroom door when a locker door slammed shut from another room, startling me. I moved toward the noise and discovered it came from the boys' football team locker room, which had no door separating it from the main locker room. The lockers here were 3 times the size of the others. Finally, I mustered the courage to shout, "Police!" At that moment, a kid screamed for help from somewhere in the room. The voice was muffled, and I followed the sound to find a boy trapped inside a locker. My stomach dropped. I told him I would be right back, then ran outside to where the white van had been parked. It was gone. My biggest regret was not getting the license plate number first. I informed dispatch to be on the lookout for a suspicious white van and rushed back into the school. I instructed the staff in the front office to end the school day and send someone with a key to the locker room to free the boy. The man had held the boy at knife point while trying to force him to the van. The boy was bleeding from his arm, where the man had cut him during the struggle. A week later, the man's van was spotted in a 7-Eleven parking lot, and he was arrested after being properly identified. During my visit to Rowan University, where I was considering attending college, I stayed at a Hampton Inn in New Jersey. My family couldn't accompany me, so I was on my own. After attending campus tours, I went to a nearby restaurant for dinner and returned to the hotel around 8 p.m., planning to go back to campus the next day. About an hour after returning to my room, a strange alarm began blaring, accompanied by a flashing white light in the corner of the ceiling. A message started looping, stating, "All Hampton Inn guests, please remain in your rooms. This is a lockdown." I had never heard of a hotel lockdown and didn't even know hotels had alarms like this. I found it more intriguing than alarming. Eventually, the alarm stopped, but the light continued to flash, repeating the message every 20 seconds. It was only around 9:30, so I turned on the TV for background noise while changing clothes and brushing my teeth. After shutting off the lights, I crawled under the covers and watched TV for about half an hour before turning it off. The flashing light was bright and obnoxious, making it difficult to sleep. I considered calling the front desk to inquire about the situation. Just then, the phone rang. It was someone from the front desk. I expected them to explain the alarm and when it would stop, but instead the person spoke in a concerned voice, telling me to remain calm and walk out the door. I took the opportunity to ask what was happening, and she informed me that there was someone in the room with me and that I needed to get out immediately. I dropped the phone and instinctively began searching the room. Part of me was curious to see if someone was actually there. I checked under the bed and looked in the empty bathroom. Nothing. Then I noticed the closet door next to the bathroom. It was slightly open, and through the crack, I could see a person's face. At first, it didn't register, but when the door slid shut, I panicked and ran out the door. The front desk staff showed me security footage from an hour earlier, capturing a suspicious-looking man wandering the hallways, apparently searching for a specific room. He had opened my door with a card he somehow acquired. I stayed to watch as the authorities took the man away in handcuffs. He was short, probably in his 40s, and as he passed by, he looked at me as if he recognized me. It's terrifying to think he may have been watching me for over an hour from that closet.